When Yud Zayin Bet, we said, just to go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah goes back to what we had learned about people who didn't have an opportunity to get ready for Yontif before. So Megalchin, they could take a haircut, and the list was people came from Medina. This Mishnah, right? Shaving and getting a haircut and so forth. Yeah, we did this. The Mishnah on Yud Gimel Amud Bet. The Mishnah list. The Mishnah on Yud Gimel Amud Bet at the very bottom lists the following people who are permitted to take a haircut on Chol Moed. A person comes from Medina to Yom, got off the boat. Person came out of prison. Beit Hashivya. Beit Hashivya was captivity. Yotzei Beit Asurim is allowed out of jail. So one is you were captive and released. One is you were in prison released. And Menuda Shitir Bochachomim. Person was in Nidoi who was released. And from that we got onto the long discussion about Nidoi, Cherem, and so forth. And V'chein Mishnishal Lachacham B'hutalo. A person who made a vow not to take a haircut and asked Talmud Chacham to and got a heter to be matir the neder on the middle of Chol Moed. And in the end of this list are two people who we're going to talk about. One is Nazir. If the Nazir's term for becoming a Nazir ends on Chol Moed, okay, so Nazir is not permitted. Is prohibited to take a haircut on that time period. Correct. And in order to bring the carbon, he has to shave. V'gilach Nazir Pesach Al Moed Es Rosh Nizro, v'lakach et Sar Rosh Nizro, v'natana leisha shetach et Zevach Hashlamim. So the Nazir, right, at the end of his Nazirut, has to take his hair and cut it off, and they put it on the fire. And the next one is Mitzorah, Sha'oleh mitumato l'taro, a Mitzorah who becomes tahar. The 7 days of his tahara end on Chol Moed. And once again, v'haya bayom hashvi galach et kol siaro. On the 7th day, he will take a haircut.
I think he has to shave all his hair.
Shave all his hair. Galach et kol siaro. Correct. Take a haircut and shave all his body hair. And all of these two people are included in the people who are permitted to take a haircut on Chol Moed because they couldn't do so before the Yontif began. Right. So they're included in this long list of people, and then the next Mishnah went on. When the Mishnah talked about then mechaps and people who were permitted to wash. But the key is we're going to now ask if there's a difference between the last two in this list, the Nazir and the Metzorah, from all the others that are on this list. And to understand this, I'll just introduce you to the Gemara. The Gemara is going to tell us that this whole list of people is specifically only people who couldn't take a haircut before Yontif came in. In other words, that's logical. You understood that. Right. But for example, while it's axiomatic, you'll see in a moment why the Gemara says this. A person got off the boat, and he got off the boat on Erev Yontif, and he could find a barber, and he did not. Right? So then he's not a heter for him to take a haircut on Chol Moed. No, a person gets off the boat as the sun is going down. He gets off the boat, the barbers are closed. Right, the barbers are closed. It's Erev Yontif. A person who is released from jail and he did not have an availability to find a barber to be shaved and take a haircut, so he can take it on Chol Moed. But if he had the opportunity to do it before Yontif, and he dilly-dallied and he did not, right? So then he was not permitted to take it on Chol Moed. Right?
These two, of course. These two are in a different position altogether.
Correct.
Maybe. Well, mind, you could argue.
So these two, the Gemara Mishnah, the Bryce is going to say, however, these two are in a different position. Why? Because even if they could have taken it before Yontif and they did not, there's still a reason to allow them to take a haircut on Chol Moed, and that is because in order to complete their process, they have to cut their hair in order to bring their karbanos. Right. So in order for we're going to be 17b, but I'm just reviewing the Mishnah on 13b, okay? So in other words, if they wanted to become, the Metzorah wants to become tahar at the end of his 7 days, before bringing his karban, he has to take a haircut. So even if he didn't take a haircut on Erev Yontif, if we don't allow him to take a haircut on Chol Moed, we are delaying him bringing his karban. If we're delaying him bringing his karban, in other words, it's not wrong, but it's surely not ideal to delay bringing a carbon as the earliest time possible. So because this is an impediment to bringing the carbon, so even if he could, whether it's the mitzora or the same thing for the nazir to leave his nazirus, he has to bring that carbon. To bring the carbon, he has to cut all his hair. All the hair has to be burnt. So even if he could have taken a haircut before Yantiv, and he did not, either the Nazir or the Metzora, nonetheless there's a special exemption that both of these can still take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. In other words, the issue is not that he was precluded, the issue is that would preclude his bringing the carbon in the proper time.
He chose to become a Nazir.
He chose to become a Nazir, but let's say
if he'd chosen to start a week earlier.
Whatever he decided, why ever he became a Nazir, it's not always well thought out. Many people don't think out when this is. You hear many times that people think they book a vacation and they say, "Oh, I didn't realize it's Erev Yontif," or right, something like that happens all the time. We don't look that far on the calendar. So, and surely with a Metzora, it surely do not plan Tzaraz. Correct. So, whatever the reason a Nazir became a Nazir, sometimes there's a story in the Gemara about a Nazir who became a Nazir because he looked at his reflection in the water, and he began to feel a little too horny about himself. And he looked too good. And he says, "That's it. I'm going to look a little bad." So, and that's actually a positive kind of Nazir, I suppose.
All the other people that were mentioned don't have to take haircuts. They could stay without a haircut. They obviously choose to look better.
Right.
But these people don't have a choice. They have to take haircuts, right? So,
right. And Nazir, by the way, Nazir does not be for 30 days. Nazir could say, "I want to be a Nazir for, 46 days," right?
Sure.
So it's hard for them to know when it falls out.
And what's the minimum of a Nazir could?
30 days. 30 days.
Kind of.
Right, but a person could say be a Nazir from the ultimate Nazir is Nazir forever.
right.
Nazir for life. But
Yeah.
Shimshon was right, a Nazir Mibetin from the moment he was born. But in other words, a person can be a Nazir for as long as they want, provided it's a minimum of 30 days. So the bottom line was that the Gemara is going to say, and that's where we're going to begin this piece here, is even if he could have taken a haircut before, right, nonetheless these two people are exempt, or still can't take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. So the Gemara says on Yud Zayin Amud Bet, V'hanazir v'hamatzora mitumas l'taraso. So boy minei Rabbi Yirmiyah mi Rabbi Zera. So he asked them, V'shaloh hayalam p'nai or dilma av kishayalam p'nai. So he asked the question, this entire list in the Mishnah of all these people who are permitted to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed, is it only when they didn't have time to do it on Erev Yontif? Or does it even include if they did have time on Erev Yontif? Once we say it's permissible, maybe the entire cast, the entire group, the entire list is permissible, even if it happens to be the person could have done it before Yontif, but he had other things to do. But it doesn't mean necessarily he was dilly-dallying. He had a choice between, getting a haircut or getting a suit. So he decided to get the suit. So he ran out of time. He got back to the barber, was closed. I once had a when we moved here, had a couple that ended up on my doorstep on Shabbos. They were driving from Baltimore up to the Poconos. We were in Wilkes-Barre, and he suddenly found out on Friday, this is about Shavuos, so found on Friday that Sunday was Rosh Chodesh. It was the 9 days. So he had to get a haircut before he left. He was traveling a long distance. So he went around looking Friday morning to find a barber, and that put him back behind his leaving time. He ended up getting caught in traffic, and he ran out of time, and he found my house as we were coming out. This was early Shabbos in the summer. We were coming out from davening, from Shul at the end of early Shabbos. It still wasn't yet dark, but it was getting dark, right?
That happened to me. It was in Myrtle Beach. A hurricane came. They threw me out of my hotel. So I phoned Chabad. I said, "Can you put me up for Shabbos?" They threw me out of the hotel at 6. Shabbos was like 7 or something. Wow. They put me up. They were very nice. And
So at any rate, so this is the scenario where people kind of misjudge things. So the Amalei, so Rabbi Zera answers to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Tanina, we have a brisa that says this very question. No, it's only when they didn't have time to do it before Yontif. Aval hayalem pnai asurim. If they had time before Yontif, it's asur. And then the brisa adds, and these are the two we said are the exception. Nazir mitzora afa pisha hayalem pnai mutarim. Either mitzora and the nazir, even if they had time before Yontif to take a haircut, they're still permissible to take a haircut and shave on Chol Hamoed. Shelo Yishu Korbanosam, because it shouldn't be that they will delay bringing their carbon. The carbon should ideally be brought on the 8th day. That's when they're supposed to go through the process. If they can't take the haircut because the 8th day is Chol Moed, or the 8th day was Erev Yontif, and they dilly-dally, they should do it at the earliest time possible. Right? So therefore the whole thing will get put off. Okay. So at any rate, this is the brisa that refers to our Mishnah. Once again, the listing in our Mishnah listed the following people can take a haircut on Chol Moed. Medinat, you come from off the ship, you come from captivity, you come out of prison, you come out of a nidui, and you were matir neder not to take a haircut, and nazir and mitzorah. Now the Gemara now adds a question, or asks a question about another brisa, but the other brisa is not brought in its entirety. Okay, so it's a short piece, and you have to imagine that the rest of the brisa is there as well, and the Gemara is going to compare it to our Mishnah. Tana.
Is there any difference between Tanena and Tanan? Not really. Tana.
Tana means a brisa. It's like Tanya.
Right? Tanya?
Right.
And Tanena?
Tanina means we learned it.
Oh, we learned
so Tanan is a Mishnah. Tanya is a brita. Tana Rabbanan is a brita that's usually an authoritative brita, and sometimes you have Tana. In this case, Tana here is a part of a brita. Okay, so the brisa says as follows: Hakohen ve'avel mutarim begiluach. Okay, so they list two people in this brita that we don't have the rest of. The assumption is it's probably maybe like the brita that we just mentioned was a continuation of something on this topic. That two people are permissible to take a haircut on Chol Moed. Two additional people, a kohen and an avel, okay, a person who finished their avelus, okay, and their avelus finishes. Now we have to figure out when is the avelus, okay, when will actually be the avelus taking place that is going to end, that they would want to take a haircut on Chol Moed. And the other one is a kohen. Now when would there be a situation where the kohen would suddenly be wanting to take a haircut, or be needing to take a haircut, during a period of Chol Moed?
It's his turn, maybe to. Correct.
So the Gemara is going to talk about being his turn in the Beis Hamikdash, and maybe his turn was up, and his turn, and he could have done it before. So maybe he had two back-to-back turns, so to speak. Okay, or his turn ended during Chol Moed.
Every 7 days.
Correct. They would go every 7 days, Shabbos to Shabbos.
Right.
So it ends on Shabbos. Maybe Shabbos is going to be Chol Moed.
Right. The next one, whichever way he does, because if he has a haircut on the Monday, the next Monday might be Chol Moed as well.
So, but if he finishes his work, why does he have to have a haircut? Why can't he wait till later? Okay. Right. So the Gemara will try to explain that. Okay, and the Gemara is going to give an unusual answer, but the point of it being that this brisa includes these two other individuals who are permissible to take a haircut on Chol Moed, Kohen and Avel. The assumption is that our Mishnah, which did not list them, would not have included them.
Right.
So after we try to explain what the scenario is, the Gemara will have to explain why it's only the brisa and our Mishnah does not. So it's an argument from silence. You could say that our Mishnah was not a complete list. Gemara doesn't like to say it. The Gemara likes to say Mishnayos are full and complete, and therefore one Mishnah doesn't have these two. They're not included. The brisa does have these two. They are included, so we have to explain each one and so forth. But first we have to make sense of what it is. What is the case of the Avel? Okay? So what would be the case where an Avel's Avelus finishes and it's going to come out on Chol Moed?
Yeah, let's think.
So it's very difficult to understand because there is no Avelus on Yontif, right? If anything, we know that the Avelus finishes before Yontif. Whatever period of Avelus a person is in, it ends with Yontif. So a person is sitting Shiva Nebuch, the Shiva ends at Yontif. Person is in Shloshim ends at Yontif. So how is it possible that the Avelus, it wouldn't be an opportunity for this person to take a haircut or a shave before Yontif starts up? So, and the same question will be about a Kohen. So it's a little complicated, but you can follow through it. So the Gemara says, Avel Hechidami. What's the case of Avel? Elei mashachal shmini shelo be'erev haregel. Okay, let's say the Avel, how long is Avelis for? 7 days. So his 8th day is on Erev Yantiv. And so the Avelis is over. The 8th day is Erev Yantiv. So the Gemara says he boilei legluche be'erev haregel.
Right.
So obviously he could have taken a haircut then. Was he waiting to Chol Moed? Where was he? Ella, you must say shechal shmini shelo liot b'Shabbos erev haregel. You must say that the 8th day falls out. The day would have gone for a haircut. The 8th day comes out on Shabbos,
right,
which is erev Yantiv. Okay. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, iboilei legluche erev Shabbos. He should have taken a haircut on erev Shabbos, which is the end of his 7th day.
Yeah, I mean, now let's say we end in the morning, but the implication there is that's the part that's confusing me a little bit. Like, if the 7th day is Friday, right? We're assuming that here.
Right.
Right. So when does the Avelus end? I mean, we would say Friday morning, right? But they seem to be saying, so is that what they're saying? Friday morning it ends, and he could have gone all day Friday.
Well, in other words, let's run the scenario. If his Avelus finishes on the 7th day, which is on let's say the 8th day is Friday.
Well, the 8th day is Friday.
So the 8th day is Friday, so it means the 7th day was finished on
Thursday.
Let me see, what was the first one? If the first day was, the 8th day was Erev Shabbos, the 8th day was Erev Haregel, then he could have taken it Erev Yontif, right? Because what happened? He finished 7th day of Avelis,
yes,
he goes into Shloshim, the next day is the 8th day, and he would terminate the 8th day with Yontif, so he takes a haircut before Yontif. So Gemara says, no, the 8th day is Shabbos.
Right.
Shabbos, which is Erev Yontif.
Also happens to be
okay? So the Gemara says, in such a case, we have a rule that even though it's the person is still that in such a case we allow the person to take a haircut
on the 7th day,
on the 7th day after he gets up from Shiva, even though it's still not the 8th day when he's gone right. Okay, so Gemara says we still have this rule. The 8th day is on Shabbos, which is Erev Yontif. Yontif is Sunday. Mm-hmm. Erev Shabbos is the 8th day. He gets up. Shabbos is the 8th day. The 7th day of Avelos is Friday. Okay, so he would normally finish the 7th day on Friday. So the Gemara says, "Iboilei legluche erev Shabbos." So he should have taken a shave and a haircut on Erev Shabbos, which is the 7th day. Right, the Amrav Chisda, Amravina Bar Shela, Halacha Ka'Abba Shaul. The halacha is like Abba Shaul that says that even 7 days, even if you only have 7 days before Yontif, we finish Shiva and Shloshim, because Shloshim only needs a partial day. So I'll say it again. So if a person finishes their Avelis on the 7th day, they get up when? After Shachris.
What now they do? Is that what they did?
Well, you'll see this is the sheet of Abba Shaul. The person finishes on the 7th day. It's a machlokes whether that is the first day of Shloshim or the next day is the day of Shloshim. Abba Shaul says that day doubles as the end of Shiva, and it also now turns into a day of Shloshim. So according to Abba Shaul, that always would be a day of Shloshim. The Chachamim don't say that, but they admit to Abba Shaul in this kind of scenario where the 8th day is going to be Shabbos.
And it's Erev
Yontif. So in terms of having Shloshim, he has Shloshim for Friday and Shabbos, but he can't do anything on Shabbos because it's Shabbos, so you allow him to take a haircut on the end of Friday.
Right.
Because he's finished Shiva, he's got a bit of Shloshim in, and even though the Chachamim say you're really starting Shloshim the next day, there's a scenario where he is honest. He can't take the haircut on the real day of Shloshim, which is Shabbos, so you allow him to take a haircut before in honor of Yontif. So in honor of Yontif, and this is Abba Shaul's, and the Chachamim, what the Chachamim l'Abba Shaul, b'shachol shmi shelo liot b'Shabbos erev haregel shemut l'galech b'erev Shabbos. So normally the Chachamim disagree with Abba Shaul, and they say that that Shloshim begins on the 8th day. Right? Abba Shaul says it begins on the 7th day. The Chachamim admit to Abba Shaul that where the 8th day is Shabbos and it's Erev Yontif, and you cannot get ready for Yontif on Erev Yontif because it's Shabbos, you allow him to get ready on Erev Yontif even though it's the 7th day after he got up from Shiva. Okay? So therefore,
Now, they're not necessarily saying they agree with Abba Shul always, but
correct. In this case, they do. So in
I mean, hold that the 8th day starts Shloshim.
The 8th day starts Shloshim normally, correct? The Shita of the Chacham is the 8th day starts Shloshim. However, in this case, even though the 8th day normally starts Shloshim, and he will have a day of Shloshim before Yantiv, except it's Shabbos,
right,
and he can't take a haircut on Shabbos, we allow him to take the haircut on the 7th day, which is Erev Shabbos.
Right.
So therefore, the scenario of this Avel, who needs to take a haircut on Chol Moed, has not been solved so far. Because so far, everything we've said he could take it before Shabbos began or before Yantiv began. Either take it Erev Yantiv or take it Erev Yantiv, right? So the Gemara says the case is as follows. It's not that the 8th day was Shabbos Erev Yantiv. Lo tzvicha shechal shvi shelo liot b'Shabbos Erev Regel. No, the Shiva actually ends on Shabbos, right? Which is
7th day would be Shabbos.
The 7th day is Shabbos, correct? The 7th day is Shabbos. And
hard to see too. Would they have the funeral on Shabbos?
Well, I'll actually tell you where it's really difficult. The 7th day is on Shabbos, which means the first day of Shiva was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. That happens. Okay, that happens. The funeral's on Sunday, and that's the first day of Shiva. So in the case of where the 7th day of Shiva is Shabbos, and then it follows that afterwards is Yontif, so we don't allow the man to back up to the 6th day to take a haircut. In that scenario, that is a scenario that the Avel would be permissible to take a haircut on Chol Moed.
Gotcha.
Okay, in the Brisa. Not in our Mishnah, but the Brisa seems to say that this kind of person could take a haircut on Chol Moed. Our Mishnah would say, what would our Mishnah say? Too bad. Wait another 4 days till after Yontif. Right? Okay? By the way, the hardest scenario is not that Avelis finishes on Shabbos. That happens today. The hardest scenario is that the 8th day of Avelis would be on Shabbos. Because if the 8th day is right, if the 8th day is on Shabbos, so when would this begin? No.
We're saying the funerals would have to be on Shabbos for the 8th day to be on Shabbos, so that can't be, right?
So to be the 8th day to be on Shabbos means that the first day would be on Shabbos.
That's what I'm saying.
How would the first day be on Shabbos? So that's a very difficult scenario. So Tosas asked the question. Tosas says there are a couple of cases. One case is when you hear the news, what's called shmua krova. When news reaches you is when a person begins, and you weren't at the funeral.
Right.
So if you hear nebuch about the passing of a relative within 30 days, you sit a full shiva. If you hear it after the 30 days, called Shmur Rachoka. Sometimes you hear that they don't always tell people so quick about someone passing away, because there's really no mitzvah you have to tell someone, but the person knows they have to sit shiva. So they wait till after the 30 days have passed, because sometimes the news comes very slowly, and after Shmur Rachoka you only have to sit for 1 day, or it's really a part of a day. Right? But if you happen to hear the news and what's called Shmua Krova within 30 days, that's when you start sitting Shiva. So in the scenario he wasn't at the funeral because no one's buried on Shabbos, but the news reached him on Shabbos.
There's no burials on Shabbos. Burials on Yontif.
Correct.
Yontif you can have.
Yes. But the no burials on Shabbos. So that's one scenario. Tosa says another scenario that if you give up hope, when does Shiva begin? When the funeral is over. What about if you don't recover the body? When do you start sitting Shiva? So the answer.
Somebody told you, for example, witnesses. You need proof that somebody's dead.
No. So the scenario is says Tosas, where a wild animal attacked someone and killed someone and schlepped the body.
Right.
And you just find
people see the animal attack the guy. They see he's dead. They see he can't escape, but they can. They search and they search and they search and they look for everything, and they give up. Right. So it's called nisyashu. When you give up looking for the body, that's when you start sitting shiva. Now I guess it's a hard scenario to suggest they would give up on Shabbos, but possible to conjecture that, in other words, they stopped before Shabbos and they planned to pick up after Shabbos, and then they said, you know what, there's no sense. We can't get them back. We searched all over. That's it. It's for fallen. That's the point the Shiva begins. Doesn't mean they actually sit Shiva and Shabbos. It means the counting of Shiva would start. So that's a scenario where you would have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Shabbat, would be the 8th day.
Absolutely.
Those are the two scenarios that Tosa suggests, where it's possible, it's not that common, it's possible to have a situation where the 8th day would be on Shabbos.
It's not the worst scenario. Like someone goes on tour and never comes back, then you don't...
So then you don't know if he's dead or alive.
You don't know if he's dead or alive, that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
When you find out...
But
an interesting thing, a similar thing to the Shmuah would be, two soldiers see him dead,
correct.
they come back from the war and they tell you about it, right?
2 weeks later, whatever.
Yeah.
Right,
2
so
weeks later, yeah.
now the idea is to try to determine, can you ever recover the body? But there comes a point where people see the person dead in a war, and they come back, and you may want to recover the body. You may feel maybe he was buried, but you can't, right? You can't.
They see him hit with a shell, and
And you get a letter from the government.
Demolished.
They go, "Not war."
Correct. Or the example could be back in the day, back in the United States, where they got they still get mail on Saturdays. They get Saturday mail. You can get a letter on Saturday.
You can't open it.
Someone else opened it for you, whatever it is. Okay, yeah. How will the old postman open it? It's not important.
A common occurrence at the end of the war, the Holocaust, surely. People, you didn't know.
Absolutely.
Correct, but I'm saying that they would suddenly find out on Shabbos was a less common occurrence. People were not traveling that much on Shabbos, so they would meet these kind of people bringing news. Anyone who had news to bring probably came before Shabbos started. So I'm saying, yes, it could happen, it did happen, but it's still, while it could happen, it's not that common that it would occur on a Shabbat. The Torah says they're realistic possibilities. It's not suddenly that the Gemara is offering a suggestion that doesn't happen. Remember, the Gemara suggestions don't ever have to be common.
Sure.
They have to be possible, right? Okay, that has to be a possibility. So at any rate, so the scenario of the Avel who is going to sit Shiva, who sits Shiva all the way to Yontif, is where the 7th day falls out on Shabbos, right? Which means, by the way, that the Shiva is over before Yontif, and the Shloshim, because it picks up according to Abba Shaul, and the Chachamim will admit, is also going to be over. So he can theoretically take a haircut on after Shloshim, because the Shloshim are going to be over as well, where the 7th day is Shabbos, because you had 7 full days are finished, and he had a partial day for the Shloshim. So the count is over, but he didn't have the opportunity to take a haircut. According to our Brisa, he can. According to our Mishnah, which it does not list this person, the assumption is that he could not. Okay.
So this is the only case. There's Abba Shaul, he's saying he could have taken it before. So this unusual case, let's say, is the case we're talking about.
The only case where this could come up. That's the Gemara said correct. Right. So how come our Mishnah does not list this person? So the Gemara says Tana Bra, the author of the Bara means the Braita. It's a very short terminology. Hatana Shel HaBraita, Tana Bra. Okay, good with that? Okay, Tana Bra, the author of the Braita, Savalak Abba Shaul. He also like Abba Shaul, Damar Mixas Yom Kekulo. He says that he's going to say I follow Abba Shaul, and therefore it's only 7 days. It's only a partial 7th day, and not just that. The 7th day is a partial day of the Shiva, and the second half of the day when he gets up, it's already counting Shloshim. And the Shabbos have Onasu, and seeing it's Shabbos, he's honest, and therefore he cannot take a haircut on Shabbos. He could have taken a haircut, but he can't, because if it was the 8th, if the 7th day was Erev Yontif that was not Shabbos, we would allow him to take a haircut before Yontif. The reason he can't take a haircut, he's an honest, same thing like the guy getting out of the prison. He didn't have an opportunity to take a haircut because Shabbos prohibited him, the same way the jail prohibited the guy, the Nidur prohibited him, and therefore he is allowed to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed like anyone else who is precluded against his will to take a haircut.
I'm going to make sure I understand. We're saying that Miksat Yom is Yom Kulo.
So the author of the Braita will follow Miksat Yom Kekulo, right. And therefore the Shiva is over when?
10 o'clock in the morning.
10 o'clock in the morning. From 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock.
Why can't he take
it's Shabbos.
No, it is still good. We're saying it's still
he's
Shabbos.
trying to explain why he has
Yom
to take
Shvi, all
Yom
that.
Shvi Oleh Lekanakan. So Shabbos morning at 10 o'clock, he goes into Shloshim. He can't do anything in Shloshim.
Sure.
And he can't take a haircut. If it were not Shabbos,
On Shabbos,
if it were not Shabbos, he would still be Shloshim, but before Yontif starts, he would be permissible to take a haircut.
Right.
Take the last hour, go get a haircut.
Mm-hmm.
So this, and because he can't, why can he not take a haircut?
Okay,
Because
Shabbos,
Shabbos precludes him, not because he doesn't want to.
Right.
This is called anus. This is the same kind of anus that's precluded the guy who's in jail, the guy who gets off the boat, who couldn't take a haircut because he was precluded by extraneous circumstances. The extraneous circumstance here is Shabbos. That is the author of our Bright, and therefore that includes the Avel. Tana Didan, the author of our Mishnah, who did not list an Avel. Right. And the only Avel that we can possibly list, it's not the regular run-of-the-mill Avel, because any regular run-of-the-mill Avel can take a haircut before Shabbos, before Yontif. Sorry. Our Tana of our Mishnah, which we listed all the things before we began, does not include the Avel, because he must hold Savalak Rabbanon. He followed the Chachamim, the Amri Lo Amrina Mixas Yom Kukulo. We don't say Mixas Yom Kukulo, and therefore the Avel, according to the Chachamim, needs to sit a full 7 days at the end.
Which means the 8th day wouldn't be
right,
Shabbos.
which means the 7th day. We're talking about the 7th day Shabbos, which means the 7th day is a full day of Avelus. V'akati lo sholem Avelus the Shiva, and the 7th day of Avelus only ends when? At the very end of the 7th day, when Shabbos ends.
Right.
So it's not like Avelus of Shiva ends in the morning like we say.
No.
So therefore he never has an opportunity to take a haircut, because he never even begins to go into the Shloshim.
But it's also Erev Yontif. Yeah, or it is.
Yes, it's Erev Yontif.
That's what I'm saying. It's Erev
But
Yontif.
he would end the Shiva then.
Saturday night.
Correct.
And then Sunday morning.
So Shabbos is not precluding him. What's precluding him from taking a haircut?
The Shabbos, we're agreeing the last day of Shiva is Shabbos.
Correct.
Let's say.
So therefore, if you get up from Shiva in the morning of the last day,
let's go by the Chachamim.
So the Shiva ends at the end. It's sunset. It's Havdalah.
Okay.
But there is no Havdalah, because Havdalah goes right into Yontif.
Right.
So therefore, it's not like something extraneous prohibited him. His Avelus prohibited him. So he's right in Avel into Yontif, and then he really actually goes into Shloshim. Because the Shloshim is not even over, because according to the Chachamim, you have the 7 full days. The 7th day does not go into Shloshim. So the Shloshim goes right into Yontif, so he can't take a haircut because he goes, for the Shiva ended right with Yontif, and he goes right into Shloshim, and the Shloshim is not over till after Yontif is over, till 20 days after Yontif. So that is why the Chachamim didn't include this guy, because they're going to follow that's why our Mishnah didn't include this fellow, because they're going to follow Shitat Chachamim. Okay, we by the way follow Abba Shaul. We have a rule that halacha.
How come we went by the one guy instead?
Because with Avelus we have a halacha kedivrei hamekel b'Avelus. The rule, and we'll see it when we get into the Avelus pieces, that we always, I'll say always, but 99% of the cases we follow the mekel approach. If there's a machloket, mekel doesn't mean you decide what's mekel. The Gemara has a machloket. This is machmer. This is mekel. We're mekel for Avelus.
How did you say it?
Halacha kedivrei hamekel. B'Avelus halacha kedivrei hamekel b'Avelus. Okay, so whoever, it's an unusual halacha, right? Because it goes against the grain of what most people think. Most people think that when it comes to mourning patterns, people are more machmir. Right, as a general rule, they get correct.
People are machmir on things that they don't be machmir on, and it's just
correct. But halacha looks at the other way around. Part of the reason, by the way, is probably the first day of Avelus is the only day min Torah. Right, and the first day of Avelus, by the way, is usually only a partial day.
Right, sure, by the funeral.
After the funeral. After that, it is surely only mitzvah. So the whole Avelus that we go through, that people commemorate, is only rabbinic Avelus. Besides the minhagim.
But in the Torah, didn't they say 7 days, Yosef?
So people, it doesn't mean that you're obligated to set. They set for 30 days too. These are the origins. So but this is all pre-Sinai at any rate.
Yeah, it is pre-Sinai, no question. So where do we get the 1 day then from the Torah?
I forgot. We'll learn in the Gemara. Okay. So so what have we dealt with? We dealt with the Avel. So that's the one case of scenario, the Avel. Who's the other guy we have to talk about? The Avel and the Kohen. So we have to find the Kohen who needs to take a haircut on Chol Moed.
Right.
And he couldn't take a haircut before. Right? Most Kohanim can run and take a haircut any day of the week. Okay. So the Gemara says, "Hi Kohen Hechidami." That's the next piece here. Who is this Kohen who we're talking about that has to take a haircut on Chol Moed? That our Brisa says he can, and our mission doesn't list. Okay. So here, when would a Kohen be required to take a haircut? So when he comes in for his avodah, let's call his mishmar. And mishmar, they would have had a 24-week rotation. And every 24 weeks, they would choose kohanim to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Not every kohen, by the way, went. They sent some kohanim. And that mishmar, he needed to come in. He couldn't take a haircut during that week. It's like the same way like Chol Moed, you can't take a haircut on Chol Moed. Why? So you should come into Yontif looking nice. So you couldn't take a haircut during the week of the Mishmar. In order, therefore, he would take a haircut before. So that entire week he couldn't shave, he couldn't take a haircut. It looks like. So when would he want to take a haircut there? When the Mishmar is over. Mishmar here means the week.
If he hadn't taken it before, he'd take it out.
Whenever he wants to, however it means, right? For all we know, it could mean he wants to take a shave.
Yeah.
Of course, in those days, nobody shaved.
Maybe
right? Trimmed, okay? So the Gemara says, so what is the case? So once again, it's going to be similar to the Avel, whose Shiva finishes. When would he want to take a haircut? When his Mishmar is over.
Right.
So if you say that, and the Mishmar, by the way, goes from Shabbos to Shabbos.
Right.
Okay? So if you say that his Mishmar ends Erev Yontif, so with Shabbos was Erev Yontif. Ibayle legluche Erev Regel. Should have taken a haircut Erev Yontif. Lo tzricha
before his mishmar in this case. What do you mean Erev Yontif? You're talking about Chol Moed, of course. We're so old.
His mishmar ends Erev Yontif.
Erev Yontif.
Erev Regel before the Yontif.
That's what I'm saying. So he couldn't have.
So he should have taken a haircut before Yontif. No, but he didn't. Now it's after the mishmar.
Right.
Not that his mishmar began on Chol Moed.
No. But again, let's go. We're saying his mishmar ends Erev Yontif, yeah?
Right.
Or no.
Correct.
Right?
His mishmar ends Erev Yontif.
Erev Yontif. So for 7 days, he's been on the mishmar. He couldn't take it then.
Correct.
And now it's Erev Yontif. He can't take it now either.
Correct.
So he would either take it before his mishmar altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know what. That's why he wants it with Chol Moed.
So in other words, his mishmar ends on Erev Yontif,
yes.
which means
which is Shabbos Erev Yontif.
Which is Shabbos Erev Yontif, correct?
Just like the other.
Correct. So which means he can't take his haircut. Looks like then. So the Gemara says. Then he should have taken the. You'll see, it doesn't say that clearly, but here's how Rashi explains. He should have taken the haircut the day before.
Mishmar.
The day before the end of the Mishmar, like Erev Yontif. Let's read inside, okay? Where am I? Ilema the Shalom Mishmar to Erev Regel. If his Mishmar ends on Erev Yontif. Erev Yontif is Shabbos. So Iboyle legluche Erev Regel. So he should have taken a haircut on. Now it looks like it's the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is Shabbos. So Rashi explains it means he should have taken it on Erev Shabbos, which is Erev HaRegel.
Which is during his mishmar, though, by definition, right? That's what confuses me about this. If he's not allowed to take it during his mishmar, I don't know. What's he saying here?
Yeah. Shalom Mishmar Regel, the Shalom Mishmar Regel. Chamishi, correct. Okay. In other words, let's go through the scenario. His mishmar ends on Shabbos, and Yontif starts on.
As soon as Shabbos is over.
Yontif starts Saturday night. Okay. So his mishmar is on Shabbos. So, and what do we want to argue? Because his mishmar ends on Shabbos, he goes right into Yontif. The only time he can take a haircut would be on Chol Moed. He's got to wait till not Sunday. It's Eretz Yisrael is one day of Yontif. He's got to wait Monday. He can take a haircut because his mishmar finished on Shabbos. He couldn't take a haircut the whole week. So Gemara says not true, because actually there's another rule, and the rule is that the Kohanim were allowed to get prettied up on Thursday, be on Chamishi because of Kavod Shabbos. They were not allowed to take a haircut during the whole week, but the Chamishi they were permissible because of Kavod Shabbos. And actually we had it actually I think on Yudal and Aleph that the Kohanim were allowed to do this either here or in Tainus. I don't remember. Right, correct. Okay, if you go back to Yadalam and Aleph, it says Anshe in the beginning of the Gemara, 2, 4, 6, 8 lines from the top, or 7 lines from the top. Anshe Mishmar ve'Anshe Mamad Marsuim l'saper l'chabes. The Anshe Mishmar of the Kohanim, the Anshe Mamad, the Israelim working in the base of Mikdash the entire week can't take a haircut and they can't wash their clothing, or they can't, right? V'chamishi mutar mibnei kvara Shabbos. And on Thursday they were allowed to. So in other words, it is true his Mishmar ends on Shabbos, correct? Right. But he could have taken a haircut before Shabbos to get ready for Shabbos. As we see, they got ready on Thursday. Right. Why didn't they get ready on Shabbos? It was a short day. So, but they could have done it the day before. What Rashi says is Erev Yontif, and even though it seems to say it's Thursday, which is 3 days the day before that, nonetheless you see there's a concept you can get ready for Shabbos even during the week itself. So it can't be that his mishmar ends then, okay, because he could have done it right before the Yontif was the Yontif began and the mishmar ended. So Gemara says Lo Tzricha. What's the case? The Shalim Mishmarto Beregel. Okay, so the case is as follows. His Mishmar ends on Yontif itself. Okay, so Shabbos is, let's say Shabbos is the 3rd day of Pesach. Shabbos is a Shabbos Chalamoid, and that's when his Mishmar ends. Now, he can't back up to the Thursday before, because that's already Yontif still. Right? So he's stuck. So why shouldn't he therefore be able to take a haircut? So the Gemara says, and that's a scenario where the Mishmar ends on Chalamoed. The Thursday before, the Friday and Thursday before were already Yontif. So the only scenario that presents itself for this Kohen to take a haircut, if he didn't take it before he started his Mishmar, he wants to take one after his Mishmar is over, would be when? On Chalamoed. That is why the Tana includes this guy. Now, the Tana of the Brisa. Why then don't we include this guy in our Mishnah? So that's the Gemara has to explain. So Tana Didan Savar, Cave in the Tanam b'shlosha prakim b'shana hayakol mishmot shavos be'mura haragal mechilok lechem apanim command l'shalim mishmarta b'regel dami. Let me explain. I read too far. The Chachamim say that on all of the Yom Tovim, all the Kohanim were on call. Thus, all the Kohanim came to share in the work in the Beis Hamikdash. So, if his Mishmar ends on that Tuesday, on the Shabbos, which is the middle of Chol Moed, but the entire Yontif, all the Kohanim were there and were working in the Beis Hamikdash because there was a lot of things going on. Sure. So, where they had this 24-week rotation, besides the 24-week rotation on the Yom Tovim, all the Kohanim came in. So now think this out. This guy's Mishmar ends in the middle of Pesach. Right. But what does he immediately go into? He goes into this mega Mishmar that all the Kohanim are working that entire Yontif. You see what's going on? They're all there. They're out of the routine of Shabbos to Shabbos. They're all coming in on the Yontif itself. So is that considered a Mishmar? Or is that considered extra Mishmar work?
Sounds like extra.
So that's the machlokas, our Mishnah and the Brisa. According to our Mishnah, when the Kohen finishes his Mishmar on Shabbos, which is the middle of Chol Moed, he's finished. Okay? He can say, I'm finished, I need a haircut, so I'm permissible to get a haircut. I couldn't take a haircut before because my week was week of Mishmar. I couldn't take it on the Thursday before Shabbos because that was Yontif. So now my week is over. When do I take the haircut? Take it now. According to our Mishnah, why don't we list this guy? Because our Mishnah says your Mishmar is not over. Your personal Mishmar of your group, your 24-week cycle group is over, but you've moved right away into this mega Mishmar, all the Kohanim together, so you're still on duty. You don't have a break between the two. And whatever halacha applies to you applies to everybody now. So if you didn't take a haircut before, you now ended in the middle of this big super mishmar, this big mega mishmar. You can't do it because you now move from your mishmar to the mega mishmar. When is the mega mishmar over? At the end of Yantif. So you can't be allowed to take a haircut now because your mishmar now moves right into the other. There's nothing between the two.
You're still on duty.
And the duty becomes like continuous, with no break.
Yeah.
So Tana did on Savar Kavan, our Mishnah holds, Kavan the Tan, seeing that the Mishnah says, Bishlosha Prakim Bashana Hayu Kol Mishmos Shavos, that seeing on all the Yom Tovim, all the Mishmos were equal. They weren't all working, but they were equal to the extent that they got a Murei Regalim V'chiluk Belechem upon him. They weren't all working in the Beis HaMikdash, but they got to take some of the different things that were there. The Emurim, the offerings from the brought for Yom Tovim, and the Lechem upon him that was divided up that week. So therefore, command lo shalom mishmarto. It's like his mishmar is not over. So it's like he goes from one mishmar into a continuation of another mishmar. So therefore, he can't take a haircut. Vatana bra, and the author of the Brisa Savar afagav the shach bahanach mishmaros. Even though he's still part of the other super mishmar, the mega mishmar, mishmarte miyashlimole. His mishmar is over. So he has an opportunity to take a haircut when he finishes one mishmar, before he jumps back in to join the other Kohanim. That's the machlokus between the two opinions. And therefore, our Mishnah doesn't list Kohen and doesn't list Avel. The Brisa does list both. Okay. So this, by the way, is the beginning of the segue into our Avel. See, the first time Avel has been put on the radar, and we're going to go in and out with this until we actually come to the next Mishnah. Okay. Tan Rabbanan. Kol eile she'amru mutar legalech b'moed, mutar legalech b'mei evlo. Any of these people who can take a haircut in these scenarios, it's not just in the middle of a yontif. They can actually do so in the middle of Avelis. Okay. So which means, according to the way we understand it at this moment, if a person is released from Beit Asurim and he's released in the middle of a shiva, he can take a haircut.
That's interesting. Right?
Okay, a person was a mitzora. A person was a nazir.
He's released in the middle of his shiva.
His shiva, yes.
Right.
He comes out of it. You know
why it has to look so good during the shiva.
So that's the Gemara is really going to ask that question in a roundabout way. In other words, why can't he wait? But in other words, the assumption is he's really disheveled.
Right.
You
just came out of prison.
You have to understand, you come out of prison, you come out of captivity, you got off the boat. People were on a boat for weeks. There were no barbers. So all this, and the person who took a vow not to take a haircut, a person who was a nazir, all these people were people who were tzoras. A person could be a mitzvah for a long period of time until it cures, and they call back the Kohen. So all of these scenarios are cases where the person could be extremely disheveled. Right. So the Gemara initially assumes at this moment that would apply to any person, any of these people who end their period or come out of the boat during a period of Avelis. So the Gemara says, wait, V'atanya Asurim. The Gemara says, but we have a brisa that says the other way around. We don't have the full quote of the brisa, but the Gemara is giving you the last word. The Gemara says we had the exact same brisa that says Kol eilish mutarim legalech b'moed. Doesn't say mutarim legalech b'me'ev lo board have asurim. So you have a brisa. Our brisa says you can on Avelis, and the other brisa says you can't. So the Gemara answers as follows. Rav Chisda, Rav Shila, Ki Tanya Hacha Mutarim B'Shetakfu Avelav. That Takfu Avelav means you have two shivas that are back to back. Two mourning periods, and one falls right into the other.
So it's about Tanya, some other.
Right, we don't have the Brisa. We only have one word quote from the Brisa.
I got you, Asurim.
Right.
You. Okay.
So we have one word quote from the Brisa Asurim. So the Gemara says you're right. It's normally really Asur. The only exception to the rule would be if you came off the boat and you have a double shiva. Okay, once again, not a common scenario, but Rahman al-San could happen. right? Person goes back-to-back shivas, one after the other, one right after the other, so that you didn't have a chance when one shiva was finished to go get a haircut before Nebuch Yisat shiva again.
I got you. Before we even get to that, Tanu Rabbanan, right? The Rabbanan have a brisa, yes?
That's his
they
call.
Taught.
Yes.
They taught that you're allowed to do this.
Correct. So Gemara says about Tanya, we have a brisa that says
There's
Asurim.
another brisa says no. Okay.
Correct. How do you reconcile one is mutar, one is asur? So the Gemara's answer is when it said no, that the asur is right.
Why do we have to say the asur is right?
So you have to explain them. They're both right. They're both right. One is talking about a single shiva, and one is talking about a double shiva. Okay, which by the way is a not uncommon answer for the Gemara to talk about takfu avei. For us, it sounds very very unusual. But you can think of trauma victims, right? Where two relatives could be involved in the same kind of accident, and one passes away, and then the other one passes away within a week or something like that. These kinds of things.
It's like what you said before about Mekel. So we're saying the poor fellow who just got off a boat, right, and looked horrible. He just found out that a close relative died, right? And the Rabbanan would have said, "Oh yeah, you can."
So now the answer is well, if you got off the boat, because the answer is now if you got off the boat, so you wait 3 years. You're not supposed to look so nice anyway. So you wait 4 or 5 days.
I got it.
Remember, he's getting off the boat in the middle of the shiva.
Yeah.
So it's not even a full 7 days. The shiva started. It could be 6.5 days. It could be 4 days. So they say, okay, you know what? So you were looking bad. So Alva's not supposed to look so happy. So you'll wait 3-4 days. But if on top of that it's not 3 days, it becomes 10 days.
10 days.
That's already different. So Gemara says, okay, that's a great answer. There's only one problem. We know that from another brisa that takfu avei overrides taking a haircut, allows you to take a haircut. You're trying to tell me this brisa that says mutarim must be about takfu avei. We already know that, right? We know that. So it's not even if you got out of prison. It's not even if you get out of prison. It's in general. Anyone who is takfu avei, nebuch, they're doing a double shiva, then the Chazal allowed the person to take a haircut. They understood that was already too much. Right, was beyond the requirement. Now I know the people go for haircuts in different timings, but people tend to shave or trim, even have a beard. You tend to trim it periodically or whatever it is. So a double aveilus is always permissible to take a haircut. So Gemara says, so my area kol elu shamru. If it's a case of a double shiva, takfu aveilav, why is it only these people that got out of prison, got out of captivity, came off the boat, nidoi, finished, and so forth, matzora, nazir, afilu kuli almanalma. Anyone, the whole world, anyone, the Tanya, anyone who has a double shiva, we have a brisa which says, takfu aveilav ze achar zeh. The person has nebuch double shiva one after the other. So hich bitsaro mekel batar. When his hair gets too long. In other words, it's one thing to let the guy go for a week, 2 weeks. You kind of assess whether it's his things are getting too disheveled. You allow him to cut it batar. Batar is a razor. It doesn't mean the pace. It means you can cut the hair. Now the Gemara is assuming for the moment that when it means you can cut with a razor, that means that was the normal way they cut. Razor cut was the normal cut. Okay, we'll see.
Today pay extra.
Yes. Okay. And you can wash your clothing in water. The Gemara is assuming for a moment when it says washing in water, that's the regular washing process, as opposed to trying to scrape the dirt clean. So you're allowed to wash them in water, do a proper wash. So you see that anyone who has a double shiva is permissible to get a haircut, hichbitzaro, and wash. But the question is, of course, about the double haircut. So why are you saying only these people can get a double haircut? Right? It should be anybody. So the Gemara's answer is, here's the difference. Everybody only can get a haircut. First of all, it's got to really look bad. And second of all, it's only with a tar. Tar was, today a razor cut is like a higher class, but a razor cut was very rough. It was very inaccurate. They had misbarayim, they had scissors in those days. It was a quality instrument. And the scissors can be much more carefully controlled than simply a razor cut. Consequently, anyone who Nebuch is sitting a double shiva, they didn't allow him to get a real haircut. They allowed him to get a trim. That's what it really means. A razor cut means you get a minimal trim. And the same thing, they didn't even allow him to wash his clothing properly. He could only wash his clothing with water. What was missing? detergent. Didn't have soap. They had natural. Okay. They had some kind of earth which had these components in it, which were cleansing components. Plus, it was also probably abrasive. But these people, the guy who comes out of jail, and the guy who comes off of the Nazir and the Metzora, these people could get a regular haircut on Shiva.
Right.
That's the Chiddush. So in other words, there are 3 laws now as follows. A person who has a double Shiva, a regular person with double Shiva, can get a minimal razor trim. A person who comes out of jail, who has a double Shiva, can get a real haircut. Right. A person who gets out of jail with only Nebuch 1 Shiva qualifies for nothing. That's how the Gemara is going to explain this. That's the Gemara's answer. So Ha'it Mar Allah, we already answered this. Amar Rav Chisda, Betar v'lo b'misparayim. When it says the guy who has a double shiva gets a haircut, it means betar, only with a razor.
Ordinary people.
And not a misparayim, which is the scissors. Mm-hmm. They had scissors. B'mayim, with water, v'lo b'nesa v'lo ba'ahal. They could not use these other ingredients, which were cleansing ingredients. They were primitive. They had primitive detergent ingredients built within them that they could use. It looks like you're using dirt to clean dirt, but they had minerals.
Sure.
Right? They had, in all societies, had ways to cleanse. So that becomes the Gemara's conclusion, and the Gemara's conclusion therefore is held up. And the Gemara says, Rav Chisda Zot Omeret, the final conclusion of this Gemara is, which is really secondary, because we're talking about haircut until now,
right.
That Zot Omeret, Avel Aser B'Tichboshes, that an Avel can wash his clothing. Because you see from the Bryce that we wanted to talk about washing about taking a haircut, it mentioned 2 things. A person who's takfu avelav can get a haircut with a tar, right, and can wash his clothing with water. Sure. But which means a regular avel can't wash his clothing at all, right? And anyone who's never been through avelus feels that, right? It's probably the hardest part of avelus. You're wearing the same clothing, same outer clothing at least. So it's all, and you can't wash things. Also betachboshes. So betachboshes, excuse me. So and that becomes the halacha in terms of avelus. So we've learned actually one important halacha, or 2 important halachas. One is about getting a haircut and shaving on an avel,
which you can't do at all. The only exception to the rule is if you came out of a jail and captivity and so forth, or a person with never a double shiva. But there's between the 2 of those too. It's not like an ordinary person who has a double chas v'shalom
can only take minimal haircut.
Right, and minimal washing. But the people who came out of jails could do?
Well, we only so far talked about getting a haircut. We didn't talk about washing. The assumption is they probably get other clothing.
They can get real haircuts, right?
Right, real haircuts.
Right.
But you see from this, the bottom line, because we brought the proof in from the people with the double shiva, the only people who could do any minimal washing were the people with double shiva, which means a single shiva couldn't even do that.
Right.
So the Gemara says, and the halacha is, we know this to be true, that an avel they can't do washing at all. Okay? Right. And we'll stop here. The next piece of the Gemara actually talks about whether an avel can cut his nails, okay, or we question whether it refers to an avel or whether it actually refers to Chol Moed. It actually brings the case down, which looks like a velus. Okay, great.